welcome to WPC TV. You are the Director General of the World Trade Organization, so a rather important man at a rather difficult time for the world economy. What has happened, first of all, to the Doha round?
Well, for reasons which have to do with, let's say, geopolitical division, the Doha round, as conceived 10 years ago, which is a big package to update the WTO rulebook, will not conclude any time soon under this big package form. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that negotiations cannot move forward, are not moving forward, and on some of these issues, there might be good news next year, although still quite a bit of work to do by the negotiators.
I mean, with the slowdown in the Chinese economy, with the hangover still of the global financial crisis in the United States, and of course with the terrible problems in Europe at the moment, do you worry as the WTO boss about protectionism?
Of course we do. Of course we do. And that's why we've been setting up since the beginning of the crisis a specific monitoring system where we track regularly on our radar screen all trade policy developments, whether trade restrictive or trade opening. We report this regularly, twice a year, including to the G20. And the picture so far is, let's say, mixed. We haven't had a sort of big protectionist epidemic, and we know the consequences of such a breakout if it were to happen. So nothing like this, nothing like what happened in the 30s, but on the other side, some quite worrying developments in some countries, which we have to track and counter.
I don't know how precise you can be, but it occurs to me that if Mitt Romney had won the election in America and had carried out his promise on day one to declare China a currency manipulator, this would not necessarily have been a very positive development from your point of view.
But we don't work with ifs. What we do is look at the facts and make sure that WTO members have a proper scrutiny, occasion to discuss that regularly, and so far, this has helped containing these protectionist pressures, which are there inevitably, as long as some people still believe that protectionism protects, which, frankly speaking, it doesn't in today's world, and probably even less in today's interconnected world with global value chains all over the place. But this remains a political reality. So, first thing to do is keep pushing back on these protectionist pressures and make sure that WTO disciplines, which so far has been reasonably respected, where countries have erred on the trade restrictive side, it's usually by using the policy space which WTO disciplines allow them to use. But as we know, we're not out of this crisis, so we're not out of the woods, and more attention, more vigilance in the times to come, while trying to still keep opening trade through proper agreements on bits of agriculture, things like trade facilitation, which has to do with customs procedures, which today, traders spend more money in crossing borders than in paying tariffs.
Yeah. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, which hasn't yet been signed by everybody, what do you think of that? Is it a...
Depends on what will be in there. I mean, for the moment, it's a concept. What will be in there at the end of the day is still very unclear. So we do not know whether such an agreement, if and when it unfolds, is conducive or not to more multilateral trade opening. And we all know that regional or preferential agreements are cheaper politically. They're also of lower quality, and that's why they're cheaper.
But they're better than nothing.
That's what they believe, yeah.
Final question, the Euro crisis, the Eurozone crisis. How do you see that going? How does it impact on trade in general?
Well, I mean, it has resulted in years of slow growth for Europe. And that's still the forecast. The next 2, 3, 4, 5 years will be flat in Europe. Now, this, of course, impacts trade flows, as Europe remains the biggest export market on this planet. So far, this hasn't led to any protectionist development in Europe's trade policy. And one of the reasons for that is that this is done at EU level, at federal level, and there still is a very stable majority, both in the Council of Ministers of the European Union and in the European Parliament, in favor of open trade. So there's no risk, as far as I can see, that this difficult domestic situation translates into a protectionist stance. I don't think this will happen.
That's a very nice, optimistic, positive note to end on. Pascal Lamy, thank you very much indeed.